Chapter 2277. Yiqing Luo stared at Zhou Xian. How could he not understand the deep meaning behind Zhou Xian's words? This man really knew how to take a mile when given an inch. Although he was complaining in his heart. However, when he met that pair of smiling peach blossom eyes, her heart softened a little. She glared at Zhou Xian again in annoyance. She tugged at Zhou Xian's collar as she bent down and bit down hard on Zhou Xian's lips. Then he stood up and snorted, "I've stamped my mark here, so you're mine." Zhou Xian laughed heartily as he leaned against the headboard. His slender fingers glowed with flowing fluorescent light. Bit by bit he wiped his lips. He chuckled like a fox. "That's all. You still want a foot after giving me an inch? Believe it or not, I will kick you off the bed right now." Yiqing Luo's cheeks were slightly red as she lifted her leg to kick Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's large palm easily caught Yiqing Luo's little feet. Yiqing Luo struggled and shook her legs, but the man refused to let go. She just came out of the shower. Her two fair feet were caught in Zhou Xian's palm. Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder as she couldn't help but call out, "Zhou Xian." Zhou Xian's lips curled into a sinister smile. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at his palm at the snow-white, delicate and lovely feet. Suddenly he slowly pressed his lips on the instep of his foot. Yiqing Luo's breathing seemed to have stopped. Her eyes widened, and when she came back to her senses she wanted to pull her leg back even more. The glint in Zhou Xian's eyes turned darker and darker. Some kind of emotion was stirring in his heart. His low and hoarse voice was like a scorching fire, wrapping around Yiqing Luo. "Lil Luo, are you sure you want to buy my feelings just like that?" Yiqing Luo knew that he did it on purpose. He wanted her to take the initiative. She gritted her teeth and looked at the devilish smile on the face of unparalleled beauty in front of her. She suddenly pounced forward and pressed onto Zhou Xian. "Zhou Xian, see if I don't make you hover between life and death." The next day, Yiqing Luo was hovering between life and death when she was shaken awake by Kitty Li. Her whole body was sore and limp. He opened his sleepy eyes and saw a cute and delicate little face in front of him. The two ears on the top of her head were still twitching non-stop. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and stroked Kitty Li's head before hugging her in her arms. "Kitty cat, accompany me to continue sleeping for a while." "Sister." Li's little claws pried Yiqing Luo's hand away. "Get up quickly, we're about to gather at the class of gods. The fat teacher said that we must gather before the hour of the morning. No one is allowed to be late." "Class of gods? Gather?" Yiqing Luo's chaotic mind suddenly cleared up. She sat up on the bed. "What time is it now?" "You have the time it takes for an incense stick to burn to prepare." Kitty Li puffed up her cheeks. "The Overlord really doesn't know how to care for you. He knows that we still need special training, but he still tortures you like this." Yiqing Luo blushed as she cupped Kitty Li's little face and rubbed it hard. "Kitty cat, you're still a child, don't talk about such a mature topic." Kitty Li let out a meow meow sound, her little claws flapping about. Yiqing Luo let go of her face. "Be good, go wait outside, I'll be out soon." Kitty Li reluctantly walked out of Yiqing Luo's room. Yiqing Luo endured the soreness and limp body and climbed up. The bedding on the bed had been changed into a new one. Her uniform was hanging by the side. Even the underwear was prepared in an orderly manner. Yiqing Luo blushed. Chapter 2278. Yiqing Luo's face was filled with disdain, but she was actually overjoyed as she quickly put on her clothes. In her mind she was still recalling the words Zhou Xian said when he left while hugging her. Zhou Xian said that before he returned, Bai Mei would not have the chance to appear in front of her. The teachers and students in Class of Gods would definitely not dare to go against Devil Class. In Class of Gods he had a friend who was a student in Class of Gods. If he was not around and met with any unsolvable problems, he could look for that friend for help. Yiqing Luo was in a daze from Zhou Xian's torment and didn't listen to him at all. Now that she was awake, she recalled what Zhou Xian said. She was slightly stunned. Friend? Student? Zhou Xian's friend in Class of Gods? And a student? Why didn't she feel that any student in Class of Gods was friends with Zhou Xian at the training ground? Zhou Xian seemed to have said something at the end. She was in a daze and didn't hear it clearly. Hearing Kitty Li's urging from outside, Yiqing Luo shook her head. "Let's not think about these things for now. She must rush to the training ground before 5 in the morning." She had just been in the limelight in Class of Gods yesterday. If she was late today, it would only make the students in Class of Gods even more certain that she was bullying others. After a quick tidying up, Yiqing Luo dragged Kitty Li and headed towards Class of Gods' courtyard. When they reached the training ground, it was exactly 5 in the morning. Not considered late. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief as she looped one arm around Kitty Li's shoulder and panted heavily. Upon seeing this, the students of Devil Class, one by one, they walked over with ambiguous smiles. Qing Luo, look at your sleepy face, don't tell me. You didn't sleep at all last night? Where's the Overlord? Why don't I see him accompanying you? Don't tell me. The Overlord has been squeezed dry by Qing Luo and is still resting in the room? Each teasing was more ridiculous than the other. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly red at the start, and towards the end, her face turned gloomy as she clenched her fist and threw a punch towards Qiao Jin, who was nearest to her. You're trying to silence me. Qiao Jin covered his face and jumped back a few steps. The 11 of them joked around, causing the air flow in the silent and oppressive training ground to ease a little. The students of the Class of Gods were getting more and more suspicious. This group of students from the Devil Class actually dared to make fun of the Overlord. It could be seen that the students of the Devil Class usually had a very good relationship with the Overlord. That was to say, Zhou Xian and Yiqing Luo had long been a couple. The ghost doctor Old Man Guiyu and now Dizun. Who in the Class of Gods would dare to find trouble with the Class of Devils? That person's brain must be stuffed with grass to be able to do such a thing. Cough, cough, cough. The fat master cleared his throat. The Devil Class students immediately stopped joking around and quickly returned to the middle of the training ground, standing in line. The students from the Class of Gods silently shifted to the side, afraid that they would accidentally bump into the Class of Devils and become the next cannon fodder. 3 masters stood in front of the students of the 2 classes. His gaze was extremely dignified as he swept a glance across the crowd. His deep voice was steady. Bai Mei's behavior is improper and vulgar, leading the students wrongly. The Class of Gods represents the Heavenly Academy to remove Bai Mei's position as a master, and this matter will be recorded in the main academy's archives. Chapter 2279. Last night, after Zhou Xian left with Yiqing Luo, the 3 teachers also took the opportunity to disperse the students in the field. But Zhou Xian had no intention to let Bai Mei off. That big net that trapped Bai Mei had been supported by profound qi for a day and a night. Until just now, there was still an hour before the time of the 5th hour. Bai Mei was carried out by them. Bai Mei's injuries were not serious, just some superficial wounds. However, he remained in the same position for several hours without being able to move. The muscles all over Bai Mei's body were stiff. She fell into a coma after being dragged down. Although Bai Mei had already been punished physically. But everything that Bai Mei had done yesterday. Indeed, it was against the morals of a master. Removing Bai Mei from the position was not only for the sake of the Overlord but also Bai Mei had to accept the punishment. It could be said that once there was such a record in the main courtyard, no one dared to invite Bai Mei to be a teacher in any school. This was equivalent to banning. While Fatty Master was explaining Bai Mei's punishment, he was paying attention to Yiqing Luo's expression. Only to discover that after he finished explaining Bai Mei's punishment, Yiqing Luo's expression did not change at all. Not even the slightest bit of joy. Fatty Master paused for a moment. Could it be? Yiqing Luo was very dissatisfied with this punishment? Cough. Master Yi coughed lightly and walked out. And Yen Yu, I have sent her to the faculty council and detained her there for further investigation. Yiqing Luo was still expressionless. Fatty Master and Master Yi looked at each other. They expressed, they really couldn't take a student with such a strong backing. Although they said they didn't care. But in their hearts, they still respected the Overlord so much that they couldn't treat the Devil Class and Yiqing Luo as a normal student. What Yiqing Luo means is, don't talk so much nonsense, start training quickly. Shen Qing resumed his usual laziness. He lifted his eyelids lazily and glanced at Yiqing Luo. The 2 masters smiled awkwardly. Then the special training began. During the warm-up, Yiqing Luo's eyes searched among the students in the Class of Gods. Not only to find the friend that Zhou Xian mentioned. He also wanted to take a look. Was the Upper Xian Hall Master's words true or not? There was another shortcut to the upper realm. The class of gods would know. Who was it? But after looking around, Yiqing Luo didn't see any suspects. The special training began. According to the devil class's request, the fat teacher adjusted the amount of exercise for their special training based on their performance in the weight-bearing cross-country race the day before. Indeed, it could be considered as strengthening their special training. As for the students of the class of gods, they naturally had to undergo the same level of special training as the students of the class of devils. The three masters looked at the students of the two classes who had already begun their special training. Teacher Yi lowered his head and looked at the information in his hands. His face was full of amazement. Looks like we really need to pay more attention to things outside of the class of gods. The student Yiqing Luo is really an extraordinary talent. If it wasn't for her own uniqueness, the overlord wouldn't have fallen in love with her at first sight. Shin Qing hung lazily on Fatty Master's body, smiling as he looked at the direction where Yiqing Luo had left. The information of the devil class doesn't match up. Fatty Master glanced at the information in his hands. They had specially gotten it from the faculty council last night. They had also specially inquired about the rumor that the devil class was once known as the waste class. Chapter 2280. These students were indeed not particularly gifted students. On the contrary, before they entered the Heavenly Academy, their innate talents were ordinary and they were bullied in their own families. To be admitted into the Heavenly Academy, it was all because of their willpower that refused to give up, forcing themselves to pass the entrance examinations one stage after another. But the current Heavenly Academy's director was a man who sought glory. These students, although they had passed the entrance examinations, but their innate talents were too poor. So he set up a devil class, specially for this group of students without any innate talents. He sent out some teachers who were eliminated to pretend to teach in the devil class. But every time, those teachers who went to teach in the devil class would be thrown out in various ways. The director originally didn't want to bother about this devil class. Since the devil class didn't know what was good for them, the director simply treated the devil class as if it didn't exist, leaving them to fend for themselves. Gradually, the name of the devil class. Only when the teachers wanted to punish those disobedient students would they threaten to send them to the devil class. At this time, the devil class's name would appear. But when did the students in the devil class change so much? From the information displayed, the changes in the devil class started after Yiqing Luo entered the devil class. Many people were talking about it. Yiqing Luo was able to turn from a useless body to a profound expert. The overlord must have helped her from the back. And when Yiqing Luo entered the devil class, the students in the devil class also changed from a useless body to cultivators who could take charge of their own affairs. It must be the overlord who helped those students on account of Yiqing Luo's face. But the three teachers who came from the upper realm didn't think so. They were very clear. A person's change was absolutely not something that could be changed overnight. Like Yiqing Luo's aura and her boldness. At least she needed to be nurtured and trained since young. At least she had experienced countless bloodshed. Only then could she have such a shocking aura. Moreover, the group of students in the devil class was absolutely not as simple as what they saw on the surface. They absolutely did not change after Yiqing Luo entered the devil class. It was only Yiqing Luo's arrival that made them more united. That girl called Yan Xiaoyi. In the files of devil class, there isn't any information on her. Teacher Yi flipped through the book in his hand and pointed to the other side. And that little thing called Kitty Li. But according to the faculty council's understanding, Yan Xiaoyi has already been in devil class for at least 3 years. Shin Qing took a look at Yan Xiaoyi. The students of the Heavenly Academy all have a wooden token that belongs to them. The wooden tablet will clearly record the changes in each student's profound rank. The other two headmasters were slightly stunned. He was right. With the Academy's wooden token, how could the Academy not have noticed the changes in the devil class? Moreover, if the faculty council didn't have Yan Xiaoyi's file, how did Yan Xiaoyi manage to stay in the devil class for 3 years? As for that little thing called Li Mao, others might not be able to tell, but the three teachers definitely could. Looking at Kitty Li's clingy attitude towards Yiqing Luo, she could roughly guess that Kitty Li should be Yiqing Luo's contracted beast. Chapter 2281. After the investigation. They were only left with disbelief and shock. This devil class was really full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons, with unlimited potential. Old Man Guiyu had specially emphasized that Yi Qing Luo had the chance to enter the class of gods, but she had given it up. This sentence was absolutely true. Not only Yi Qing Luo alone. From their point of view, these 10 students in devil class were all qualified to enter the class of gods to undergo the best special training. But the masters were very clear about this. Even if they really brought up this point, these 11 people would absolutely not agree to it. No one could destroy the atmosphere of unity, mutual support and mutual help between them. They had always felt that the students in the class of gods stood out one by one, no matter if it was in battle or defense. Their ability would always be invincible and invincible. But they always felt that the students in the class of gods were lacking something. Now they finally understood. What they lacked in the class of gods was the affection between people, the trust between people. That kind of unity, the spirit of reliance. After a day of special training, the students of the 2 classes were exhausted after the increased intensity of the training. By the time they returned to the training ground, the students were already lying on the ground, unwilling to get up. Only the students of devil class still maintained their formation from start to end. They received a towel and a water bag from the master. They wiped the sweat off their faces. Fatigue was evident on their faces, but compared to the state of the class of gods, they were obviously better. The students in the class of gods were all shocked. If it was said that the students in devil class had completed the weight-bearing cross-country yesterday, they didn't witness it with their own eyes. Even with the master's testimony, they didn't really believe it. But today, they had been training together with the students in devil class throughout. No matter what kind of training it was a group action. They had also deeply witnessed the gap between themselves and the students in devil class. One by one, their arrogant hearts that were about to soar into the sky were all abused by the students of the devil class until they fell straight down with a walala sound. At this moment, the students in the class of gods were not only conquered by the backing of devil class, they were also conquered by their performance in the special training. After the students rested for a moment, the fat master's deep voice resounded throughout the training ground. Today's special training ends here. Gather here tomorrow at 5 in the morning. The students immediately responded in a loud voice. Yi Qing Luo wiped the sweat off her forehead and looked at the receding figures of the class before she slowly walked towards the 3 masters. Masters, I have a question that I would like to ask you. What is it, student Yi Qing Luo, please speak. Yi Qing Luo pondered for a moment. Class of Gods and the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Profound Hall, is there any special relationship? Upper Xian Hall? Teacher Yi stroked his white beard. The Xianxia Palace has not been concerned about the development of the Heavenly Academy for many years, and the few of us have not specially looked for the Palace Lord. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Put it this way. The 3 of them were not the only ones who knew where the sacred beast pearl was. Bai Mei had always been in the God class and had never left it. This point could be seen from the fact that Bai Mei didn't know that she and Zhou Xian had already had numerous legs. If Bai Mei had left the class, the gossipy crowd had been gossiping about what had happened between her and Lin Mingya. Chapter 2282. Student Yi Qing Luo is also acquainted with the Lord of Heavenly Palace? Xin Qing leaned on Fatty's shoulder and asked curiously. What was this lass's background? Why did it seem that all her acquaintances were so amazing? Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Just met once. The day before yesterday, I was summoned by the Lord of Heavenly Palace to inquire about the current situation of the Heavenly Academy. To inquire about the current situation of the Heavenly Academy, would he specially look for a student who had just returned? When they were investigating Yi Qing Luo, naturally they had heard from the students of the Heavenly Academy about the day when Yi Qing Luo had just returned. The protector of Heavenly Palace had specially appeared at the Heavenly Academy early in the morning, specially waiting for Yi Qing Luo. Simply to inquire about the Heavenly Academy? The 3 masters expressed their disbelief. But since Yi Qing Luo didn't say anything, they naturally wouldn't probe further. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and looked at the 3 masters, asking seriously, Are there any other masters in the class of gods? Fatty was stunned and shook his head. Other than the 3 of us and Bai Mei, who had been removed from the position of master, there are no other masters in the class of gods. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. It seemed that the person in the class of gods that the Lord of Heavenly Palace mentioned was not a master of the class of gods. But other than the masters of the class of gods, who else would know the precise location of the sacred beast pearl and how to use it? Suddenly Yiqing Luo's mind quivered. Well, at that time the Lord of Heavenly Palace said that what she wanted to know the students in the class of gods knew best. What he said was the word student. Student. Before Zhou Xian left, he also said that he had a friend who was a student in the class of gods. After that he said something that she was still in a daze. It seemed to be related to this matter. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up and grabbed Teacher Yi's sleeve. Master, may I ask? Among the students in the class of gods, is there anyone who is familiar with Zhou Xian? The expressions of the three masters changed slightly. You want to ask about Sister Bai Mei? Listening to Yiqing Luo calling the overlord Zhou Xian intimately, they also knew that the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the overlord was far deeper than what they saw. Yiqing Luo asked about this. She must have been irritated by Bai Mei's words last night. We've been in the god class for so long, but to be honest, we've only seen Dizun twice. Xianxia chuckled. Although the overlord's return is indeed related to Bai Mei's sister, you can rest assured that Bai Mei's sister is not a good match for the overlord. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. Did she look like someone who would get jealous and cause trouble for no reason? She was clearly asking about the students. Why did the teachers think of Bai Mei's sister? To be honest, she had never considered Bai Mei's elder sister as a rival in love. I'm not asking about Bai Mei's sister, I mean, the students from the class of gods. Yiqing Luo tried to explain. But Fatty Master had already used his fat palm to pat her shoulder heavily. Student Yiqing Luo, you can rest assured. The overlord has been to the class of gods twice, including this time. Last time and this time he only met Bai Mei once, but you've seen his attitude towards Bai Mei, so... Yiqing Luo was speechless. She really wasn't jealous. Nor did she take advantage of Zhou Xian's absence. She wanted to investigate Zhou Xian's past. Chapter 2283. Student Yiqing Luo, if it's possible, we would like to bring you to Bai Mei's sister and ask her personally. Fatty Master sighed. But we are unable to climb up that mountain. Even Bai Mei can't. Yiqing Luo facepalmed, expressing that she didn't want to ask any further. This group of masters were sure that she was jealous. She couldn't explain it clearly. What was there to say? Yiqing Luo expressed that she was very angry, but she still had to maintain her smile and said to the masters, Masters, I have other matters to attend to, so I'll return to devil class first. She turned around and dragged the devil class students away. The devil class students expressed their stupefaction and had yet to react. When the students had left the training ground, only the three masters were left. The expressions on their faces gradually became extremely grave. Master Yi looked at the direction where Yiqing Luo left and sighed. Do you think she will believe us? No matter if she believes or not, just don't ask us. Xianxia yawned lazily. Anyway, the person whom Yiqing Luo is looking for will take the initiative to look for her, so we don't have to worry about this. Fatty Master nodded. Let's go, everything has been arranged, let's go back to our room to rest. Some of the devil class students returned to the class to clean themselves up and returned to the actual combat training forest, in case they couldn't report to the training ground tomorrow at 5 in the morning. As for Yiqing Luo, after changing her clothes, she headed towards the direction of the ancestral hall. Calculating the time, the director would be coming out from the ancestral hall tomorrow. These 2 days she hadn't had the time to settle the director's matter. She had no intention to let the director continue to stay in this position. Yiqing Luo was agile, her figure as fast as lightning. In just a moment she had already arrived near the ancestral hall. It was late at night and the ancestral hall was a restricted area. At this hour there wasn't any light in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo seemed to be able to see things in the dark, as she approached the ancestral hall accurately. The surroundings of the ancestral hall was surrounded by an enchantment. Perhaps Yiqing Luo had entered the Lord's room previously. These enchantments did not stop Yiqing Luo from entering. The last time in the small room where the director was facing the wall, she eavesdropped on the conversation between the director and Yun Xiang. She discovered this point. Just as he approached the hut, he heard the sound of people talking in a low voice. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly. They came at the right time. 3 joss sticks were lit in the small room of the dean's ancestral hall. Yiqing Luo leaned close to the window, and through the flickering candlelight, she could see the 2 people inside. The headmaster sat on a praying mat, looking extremely dispirited. His hair, which had always been neat and tidy, was now in a mess like a chicken nest. His usual clean and tidy robe hung loosely on his body. His face was filled with exhaustion. The candlelight was very close. Yiqing Luo could even clearly see the director's reddened eyes and the bruise at the corner of his eyes. It was obvious that he had been in the ancestral hall for almost 3 days. The dean didn't even close his eyes. Furthermore, his mental state was also very poor. It was as if he had suffered some kind of mental torture. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule. In this eerie, terrifying, and lifeless ancestral hall, the dean had done so much that he had let down the Heavenly Academy and countless students. In this ancestral hall filled with the memorial tablets of the former dean, how was it possible for him to sleep peacefully? From the looks of it, the guilty things that the dean had done. Chapter 2284. Director President C. seems to have met with some trouble. Xiang said in a low voice. President C? Was he talking about Xianmu? They were just talking about getting Xianmu to help him secure the position of director? Yiqing Luo didn't have time to think about it. The director had already opened his mouth. His voice was hoarse and full of hostility. He is the president of Faculty Council, high and mighty. Even the elders have to give him face. What trouble could he possibly meet with? This tone, listening to it. Obviously there was some unhappiness with Xianmu. However, Yiqing Luo could roughly guess. Xianmu had a close relationship with a certain holy technique from the dark forces. It could be said that Xianmu's existence was. After the director's operation failed, he immediately took control of the Heavenly Academy. Now the dark forces were forced to return to the dark side. Moreover, most of the forces had been annihilated. The remaining were just some shrimp soldiers and crab generals. The director still wanted to make use of Xianmu and the dark forces to secure his position? How could the dark forces possibly waste their efforts on the director? Why would they take the risk of being discovered to help the director? Xiang went to Xianmu to talk about this. It would only make the dark forces choose to give up on the director. As for the candidate for the next director, the dark forces would definitely let Xianmu take over. So, Xianmu naturally didn't care much about Xiang's words. These few days, didn't that little slut Yiqing Luo bring the devil class students to the class of gods for special training? It seems like on the first day of the special training, something big happened and even the faculty council was alerted. Xiang told the director about the news he had heard. Didn't Xianxia have a cousin who is also a student in the class of gods? Under President C's intentional or unintentional retelling, that student knew that Yiqing Luo was the murderer who killed Xianxia, so in the class of gods she and Yiqing Luo were not on good terms. But you also know that Yiqing Luo, that slut, has too many backers. How could a student in the class of gods win against her? So, she was personally brought to the faculty council by the master of the class of gods, saying that after you come out from your confinement, they will investigate this matter. The director's eyes suddenly froze. That student from the class of gods, does he hate Yiqing Luo to the core? Of course. When I was discussing this matter with President C, I heard that student insulting Yiqing Luo non-stop, as though he couldn't wait to cut Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. Xiang nodded continuously. Alright. Good job. Tomorrow the dean will be able to leave this damned place. At that time, a cold light flashed in the dean's eyes. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. This student from the class of gods could be put to good use. But, Dean. Suddenly Xiang squatted down. His old face under the candlelight was somewhat strange. The dean frowned. He had a bad feeling about this. Xiang laughed softly. Dean, if you want to leave this damned place, you have to be alive to do so. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiang's palm suddenly flipped and slammed down on the dean's chest. From the moment Xiang squatted down, the dean had already felt that something was strange. When Xiang attacked him, he reacted quickly and rolled on the ground. That palm brushed past his shoulder. A burst of intense pain, as though his shoulder was torn apart. Chapter 2285. You. How dare you betray me? The dean's eyes were scarlet red and his face was sinister. Xiang saw that he had failed and simply couldn't be bothered to continue pretending. He sneered and stood up. Dean? Heh. I'm afraid you don't know that from tomorrow onwards I will be the dean. You. The dean was so angry that his whole body was trembling and the wound on his shoulder was hurting badly. Xianmu, that bastard. He burned the bridge after crossing the river. How can this be considered as burning the bridge after crossing the river? It's just that you have lost your value. Xiang sneered sarcastically. After he finished, he took a step forward and walked towards the dean. Dean, just accept your death obediently. Stop struggling. The more you struggle, it will only make yourself more painful. Bastard. The dean's face turned red as he retreated a few steps. Every movement. The wound on his shoulder became more and more tearing and the pain was unbearable. It could be seen that Xiang's palm strike just now was completely determined to take his life. Xiang laughed sinisterly, looking at the usually aloof and arrogant dean in front of him. Such a sorry figure filled with fear. In his heart he couldn't be more pleased. From tomorrow onwards, everything that the dean had would belong to him. In future he would be the dean of the Heavenly Academy. He was going to kill this dean. Xiang waved his palm again and the force was extremely sharp. The dean was sweating profusely from the pain and kept sucking in cold air. He turned sideways and somersaulted backwards to avoid that palm strike. A loud bang sound was heard. The memorial tablets were overturned by the palm strike. The candlelight also fell to the ground. The small house was suddenly pitch black. Faintly, there were only 2 small lamps hanging on the walls around the house, emitting a faint light. Their silhouettes flickered in and out of existence. That loud sound was extremely loud in the silent night sky. Xiang's face sunk, worried that it would attract the patrolling guards. He immediately clapped his hands. Instantly, 4 people in black robes sprang out from the ground. Before the dean could react, those 4 people attacked towards the dean. Profounding Qi. Yiqing Luo, who was nestled outside the window, her eyes widened as she witnessed this scene. Under the night sky, her charming eyes were like colored glass, extremely bright and resplendent. However, the few people in the chaotic battle did not notice this pair of bright eyes. Sure enough, they were from the dark forces. The remnants of the dark forces actually dared to appear in the Heavenly Academy. Those holy techniques, Pharaoh and whatnot, were they planning to nurture the Heavenly Academy into their second force? To tell the truth, Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised that Xiang would betray the director. Xiang was a petty person. His ambition was huge. He couldn't stand the unfair treatment. Once someone stepped on him, Xiang would have the thought of stepping back. Therefore, it was very normal for Xiang to betray the dean. However, did Xiang really think that Xianmu would help him to become the principal? Xiang had lived for most of his life, yet he was still so naive. She willingly became a young man's chess piece. If Xiang knew, would he vomit blood in anger? Through the window he looked at the 4 remnants of the dark forces fighting and Xiang's dean. The dean was forced to retreat step by step and his body was covered with wounds. He did not even have the strength to resist. Yiqing Luo's finger touched her pink lips. Looking at the dean lying on the ground, Xiang's palm strike was heading towards the dean's head. Chapter 2286. A ray of profound qi blocked the dean's face and forced Xiang's attack back. Xiang staggered slightly and was shocked. Who is it? The 4 surviving members of the dark forces quickly got into a defensive formation. They released their senses and looked around. The ancestral hall was silent. The dean was panting heavily. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Luckily he was all right. He was not dead. The dean got up from the ground and wanted to escape. Xiang was sharp and lifted his leg to kick the dean's back. The dean was covered in wounds. How could he have the strength to resist? A heavy force came from behind. The dean's body flew out and fell face first onto the ground. You guys killed him. I'll go and see who is playing tricks. Xiang's face was ashen. This was the most critical moment and he would not allow any accidents to happen. He wanted to kill the dean. Then he would wait for the position of the dean to fall on his head. The remaining dark forces nodded their heads vigorously. They raised the weapons in their hands and slashed down at the dean, who was lying on the ground and unable to move. Swish, swish, swish. Another few rays of profound qi, like hidden weapons, knocked down the weapons of the remaining dark forces. Who is it? Get out here. Seeing that the principal was stopped from killing him time and time again, Xiang nearly went mad from anger. He gritted his teeth and roared furiously. Then he quickly attacked in the direction where the profound qi had come from. But there was no one at the place where the palm wind searched. Kikik. The enchanting and clear laughter was extremely strange in this gloomy and terrifying atmosphere. Were you hitting? The teasing laughter continued. Xiang widened his eyes and looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a petite figure standing in front of the dean. That figure was covered with a large black robe and he could not tell who it was. But he could tell that it was a woman. The woman's voice was also extremely unfamiliar. Xiang was sure. The woman in front of him was very unfamiliar. Who are you? Xiang frowned and snarled. How dare you meddle in the affairs of the Heavenly Academy? Are you tired of living? An elder from the elders' quarters murdered the dean of the Heavenly Academy. If this matter gets out, elder, I'm afraid you won't be able to live. The woman sneered as the corner of her mouth twitched. Xiang's eyes were filled with killing intent. You want to threaten me? Very good. Since you came to seek death, this elder will kill you along with him. No matter who this woman was. As long as they were against him, he would kill them all. The woman's face was covered by the black robe, so it was impossible to see her face clearly. It was as if he had blended into the night. Xiang could not see the woman's expression. However, he could clearly feel the woman's ridicule towards him. It seemed to be mocking him for overestimating himself. This woman, she was as disgusting as that slut Yiqing Luo. Xiang's eyes turned cold as he attacked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The 4 survivors whose weapons had been knocked off their hands quickly surrounded them and attacked. However, the woman had no intention to continue fighting with them. She bent over and as though she was carrying a piece of rubbish, she grabbed the dean's collar. Following that, the black robe fluttered. She had already disappeared into the small house. That speed was so fast that no one could detect it. Xiang's heart trembled. Chase. Hurry up and chase. We absolutely cannot let them escape. The dean wasn't dead. His murder charge. Not only would he be chased out of the Heavenly Academy. Chapter 2287. No way. He could not let the dean leave the ancestral hall alive. Xiang's eyes were filled with a crazy storm. He took out a black ball-like object from his bosom. This was given to him by Mu. He was worried that he would encounter some obstacles and cause the plan to fail, so he gave him this as a backup life-saving item. Initially, he wanted to use this thing to kill those people in the elder quarters after he became the dean. But now, he could only use it first. When he became the dean, he could kill whoever he wanted to. Xiang threw the ball-like object to the ground and smashed it hard. With a bang, the ball-like object exploded. The black smoke swallowed up everything in the ancestral hall. The black smoke slowly, condensed into the shape of a person. Xiang was dumbfounded and took a few steps back. However, the black smoke seemed to have solidified and stopped him in his tracks. The black humanoid figures were like walking corpses. Step by step they walked towards Xiang. Xiang screamed out in fear. He turned around and wanted to escape. But those black fog-like things walked in front of Xiang, one by one. They all bent down and bowed to Xiang. Xiang was stunned. After a long while he seemed to be sure that those black fogs were not aggressive towards him. Xiang then came back to his senses, squinted his eyes carefully and looked at these monsters. He thought for a while in his mind and said tentatively, "You guys, quickly catch the dean and that woman just now, don't let them escape." The black fog monsters raised their heads. They had no facial features, only a black fog face facing Xiang. Xiang felt his heart trembling. Suddenly he saw those black fog monsters passed him and chased in the direction where the dean was taken. That speed was like a gibbon, totally not as clumsy as when they walked towards Xiang. At least 40 black fog monsters were born. Only then did the surrounding black fog gradually dissipate. In just a moment there was only Xiang left in the entire ancestral hall. Xiang stood there in a daze. He looked at the direction where the black fog monsters left in a daze. Gradually he opened his mouth and laughed out loud. This thing, it was too heaven-defying. Mu actually had such a powerful thing. The dean would definitely die. That woman would definitely die as well. The woman was Yiqing Luo, who was covered in a loose black robe, dragging the director as she speedily left the ancestral hall. Her actions were extremely rough. The dean was almost out of breath. He kept hitting her wrists, trying to make her loosen up a little. Unfortunately, under the attacks of Yun Xiang and the four dark forces, the dean's body was already completely drained of strength. After a few tugs, the dean lost all his strength and slumped to the ground. The Heavenly Academy has its own enchantment device, and once they leave the enchantment of the ancestral hall, they would be detected by the Heavenly Academy the moment they use their profound qi. After Yiqing Luo left the ancestral hall, she retracted all her profound energy and directly displayed her footwork, turning left and right. There was no place to hide in the Heavenly Academy. Carrying a burden who had lost half his life. If he was caught by those few remaining evildoers, it would be very easy to alert the other people in the academy. Thinking about it, Yiqing Luo decisively dragged the director and dashed towards the direction of the Heavenly Training Forest. Chapter 2288. The dean panted heavily as he laid on the ground, unable to even move his fingers. Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked down at him. If you want to die in the hands of Yun Xiang, then I will leave now. Just treat it as a waste of time to save a waste. Finishing her words, Yiqing Luo turned around to leave. Miss. The dean couldn't bear to let Yiqing Luo leave. Now Yiqing Luo was his only savior. If Yiqing Luo left and the people from Yun Xiang caught up, he would definitely die. Miss, I don't have the strength. No strength to open the entrance. I will tell you the method. In order to survive, the dean could only betray the academy's secret. He didn't care who this lady was. What was the purpose of saving him? He only wanted to survive. Yiqing Luo slowly bent down. The dean told her the incantation to open the entrance. Yiqing Luo followed the incantation and quickly opened the entrance to the Heavenly Training Forest. Just as she was about to pull the dean in, Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly turned cold. She sensed that countless strange forces were approaching rapidly. Furthermore, that power was extremely powerful. Were they from Yun Xiang? Or were the dark forces reinforcements here? Without much time to think, Yiqing Luo immediately carried the dean and jumped into the entrance. The Heavenly Training Forest was usually in a forbidden state. The enchantment here had divided this place and the academy into two zones. Casting profound energy here would not be detected by the Heavenly Academy's enchantment equipment. Seeing the entrance of the Heavenly Training Forest was completely sealed. Yiqing Luo then threw the dean under a tree. She bowed her head, and under the black robe, only a pair of sharp eyes were revealed as she locked onto the dean. Do you want revenge? For the time being, she had no intention to let the dean die so easily. This dean position, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let the dean hand over now. Xian Mu's plan could not succeed. The dean's facial features were twisted. Yes. If it's revenge, I can help you, but you have to promise me one thing. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as her brows were filled with a cold intent. The dean remained silent for a moment and clenched his fist. What do you want me to do? Your academy's faculty council president has a small grudge with me. I know. That elder Yun Xiang betrayed you because the faculty council president promised him to become the next principal. Yiqing Luo half squatted down and fished out a crystal clear pill. As for me, I just don't want faculty council president to get what he wants, so I saved you. The dean clenched his fists and his eyes were filled with hatred. Xian Mu. I will definitely deal with him. I was the one who gave him the position of president. If he wants to take it back now, it will be a piece of cake. The dignified dean of the Heavenly Academy is so simple. Yiqing Luo sneered. Now, even you don't understand the Heavenly Academy as well as Xian Mu. After so many years, his foundation in the Heavenly Academy has long been solid. If I am not wrong, Xian Mu's goal is to become the next dean. You and Yun Xiang are just pawns. The dean's expression abruptly changed. The medicine that Yiqing Luo had fed to him started to take effect. The dean suddenly sat up from the ground and punched the ground. How dare he? Yiqing Luo snorted disdainfully. This dean was really too naive. To the dean, she was now a stranger. She merely saved him. Did he really treat her as his savior? Did he believe her words without a doubt? But Chapter 2289. The dean's eyes were gloomy as he clenched his fists tightly, his veins popped out. What deal do you want to make with me? Yiqing Luo's lips curled up, her eyes under the black robe were like a frozen sharp blade. Based on your current reputation in the school, I'm afraid you are no match for Si Yenmu. If you go back openly, Si Yenmu may bite back. The dean's face sunk. This was indeed the case. He was very clear about Si Yenmu's status in the school. If Si Yenmu were to bite back, even if he could escape today, he would not be able to escape tomorrow. What good ideas do you have? The dean could only pin his hopes on the lady who saved his life. Yiqing Luo smiled mysteriously. You and Si Yenmu have been working together for so many years. You should have something on him. The dean's throat tightened. How did you? His relationship with Si Yenmu. Not many people knew about it. Why would this strange lady know about this? You don't need to care about how I know what else I know and how much I know. In short, Si Yenmu is our common goal. Yiqing Luo replied calmly. Now that Yun Xiang has already collaborated with the dark forces, if the both of them were to insist that you're from the dark forces, then by then you won't be able to defend yourself. Are you certain that you still have the mood to guess my identity? The dean clenched his fists tightly. After a long while he took a deep breath, raised his head and stared at her maliciously. Good. I will not ask about your identity. As long as I can sit on the dean's position and let Si Yenmu and Yun Xiang step down, I will not hesitate to cooperate with the devil. Devil? Yiqing Luo laughed in a low voice. In her laughter, there was a trace of indolent and seductive smile. This title suits me quite well then. You can call me devil. The dean's fists creaked. I have Si Yenmu's weakness in my hands and the evidence that he is from the dark forces. Do you want me to make this evidence public? No. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. If you make it public, what if Si Yenmu also comes up with the same evidence and bite back at you? He has the support of the dark forces. He can distort the truth at any time and point the spearhead to you. The president's face turned pale. What should I do? Since we have Si Yenmu's weakness and evidence, we need to make use of these things to their fullest potential. Yiqing Luo slowly got closer to the director as her voice was suppressed, filled with bewitchment. Yun Xiang making a move on you today is an opportunity to counterattack. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the director's expression slowly turned gloomy as a dense murderous intent kept surging in his eyes. Just as Yiqing Luo finished her last sentence. At the entrance of the heavenly training forest, an extremely loud collision sound was suddenly heard. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. They're catching up. Just a moment ago the dean was still brimming with murderous intent. But now he immediately leaned against the tree trunk and slumped down. How could this be? Here, how did they find out? There's the presence of profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo frowned as her gaze locked onto the wound on the director's shoulder. She suddenly raised her hand and placed her palm on the dean's wound. The dean screamed in pain, his face pale. You don't think too much. If I wanted to take your life, you would have died a long time ago. Yiqing Luo half squatted down. Chapter 2290. It's indeed the profound yin qi. That fresh blood which stained the handkerchief oozed out strands of black qi, like black smoke. When director saw the wisp of smoke on Yiqing Luo's handkerchief, his face revealed a terrified expression. My body is tainted with the profound yin qi. Am I going to be devoured? Don't worry, you won't die now. Yiqing Luo threw the handkerchief onto the ground. Yun Xiang had just collaborated with the dark forces and isn't familiar with the manipulation of the profound yin qi, so he only left some profound yin qi on your wound. Director clenched his teeth as he supported himself against the tree to stand up. Let's go now. There are many enchantments in the heavenly training forest. Let's hide first. No matter how many enchantments there are, if the profound yin qi on your wound has not been dealt with, they will still be able to chase up to us. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at him indifferently. Director panicked. Then what should we do? Kill the remnants of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo's voice was extremely calm. Kill you. Can you do it? Director looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Although this lady looked like an expert, but she was after all a petite lady, could she deal with the dark forces? Yiqing Luo's ears moved slightly, sensing that the entrance to the forest had been destroyed. The expression on her face turned grave. Go and wait at one side. Director propped himself up and wobbled into the bushes at the side. Coincidentally, One after another black fog-like humanoid monsters had already rushed into the heavenly training forest. Was this a new breed from the dark forces? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she sized up those monsters with interest. Behind the monsters, a white-robed Xiang with a complacent face walked out. Little slut, who asked you to be a busybody? This elder will send you to meet King Yama now. He waved his arm as he gave a sinister smile. Go. The black fog monsters, one after another, pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Those black fog monsters looked like they didn't have any facial features or thoughts, just like a lump of fog, gathering together to form a humanoid monster. But their attacks totally didn't show any signs of sluggishness. One after another, the black fog monsters launched their attacks in an orderly manner. The powerful mysterious Yin Qi enveloped the entire forest. The mysterious Yin Qi came in a torrential manner, spreading out circles after circles of mysterious waves in the air. Yiqing Luo stood in the middle of the profound waves' encirclement as her red lips under the black robe curled upwards. With a flip of her hand, a greenish-white long sword appeared in her palm. She could not reveal her identity. The glowing flame fan was a symbolic weapon. Once it was taken out, Xiang and the dean would immediately recognize it. Therefore she took out a long sword from the profound phoenix ring. This sword was also very convenient to hold, and it was extremely light. She released her profound energy, and the long sword in her hand was like a snow-white wave as it surged and collided with the circles of profound ripples. The earth shook and a thunderous sound rang in his ears. Bang bang bang. The mysterious Yin Qi that was floating in the air was dispersed by the force of the sword. But Yiqing Luo didn't stop there. She raised her sword and leaped into the air. In just a few breaths she had already dashed into the black fog monsters. The long sword in her hand turned into a lustrous white sword ray, as it covered the sky and earth as it waved in all directions. Those black fog monsters were enveloped by that sword ray in a split second. Chapter 2291. Xiang was so scared that he took a few steps back. His body was stuck to the stone wall and his legs were weak. How is this possible? Weren't these monsters the strongest? How could it be so easily chopped into pieces by that bitch? Why was that slut sword technique so unfamiliar? However, in the next instant, Xiang's terrified and shocked expression was gradually replaced by joy and complacency. The monster that was originally broken into pieces. After Yiqing Luo brandished her sword, they started to converge again bit by bit. Once again it formed a humanoid monster. Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised as she withdrew her sword stance and retreated to a big tree. Sure enough, when she swung her sword at the black fog monsters just now, she felt that something was wrong. It was as though he had sliced through the air. There wasn't the slightest feeling of a solid object. Now these monsters had regrouped. She was also sure of her guess. These monsters were the same as the flame beasts in the flame lair. They were all made of dark energy. These monsters were combat monsters refined from the dark forces' profound Yin aura and the dark forces' forbidden spells and secret arts. They were a mass of mysterious Yin Qi. There was no substance. No matter how they beat him, no matter how they crushed his body and bones, the mysterious Yin Qi could reorganize itself. It was indeed a disgusting thing. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. These things. She obviously knew that she couldn't kill them, but she still forced herself to tear them apart, which would only deplete her profound energy. But, if he didn't retaliate, these monsters could inflict real damage on her. Only the dark forces would use such disgusting things to disgust people. Xiang looked at the black fog monsters and laughed wildly. Haha, little slut. Do you think you can do anything to them? Let this elder tell you they are all this elder's protectors. You die. This monster was too powerful. An unkillable monster with such a powerful battle prowess. As long as these black fog monsters existed, even if he wanted to suppress the Three Springs sect and rule the West Continent, or even the entire Nirvana realm, it wouldn't be a problem. Xiang bared his fangs and brandished his claws at Yiqing Luo, clamoring for the monsters to tear Yiqing Luo into pieces. The monsters got their orders and all of them moved agilely as they speedily stretched out their 5 fingers towards Yiqing Luo. As they attacked again, little by little, the black mist encircled their outstretched hands and transformed into weapons. The mist was pitch black and did not look sharp at all. But Yiqing Luo could clearly feel it. The weapons that were chopping down were surrounded by mysterious Yin Qi. He was touched. The mysterious Yin Qi would definitely corrode her. How was he going to deal with this group of black fog monsters? Yiqing Luo swiftly evaded these monsters' attacks while in her mind, she summoned Old Man Tsang for help. Old Man Tsang, tell me quickly, how do we deal with these monsters? In the blink of an eye, the two monsters had grasped the opportunity. Simply and crudely he pounced forward. Luo girl, be careful. Old Man Tsang's voice resounded in his mind. These monsters can be destroyed with the thunderclap art. Thunderclap arts? Reward for the second floor of the Purgatory Tower? No. She could not use the thundercrash arts. This was a monster from the dark forces. Everything she did would be transmitted to the dark forces through these monsters. She used the thunder crash spell, which meant that the Azure Dew bracelet and the secret of the Purgatory Tower would be exposed. The current her had no confidence to protect the Azure Dew bracelet. Chapter 2292. Las Luo. Now is not the time to hesitate. Old Man Tsang bellowed in panic. Be careful in front. Yiqing Luo regained her senses as she looked at the two monsters pouncing forward. One of the monster's hand was already on her wrist. A gush of extreme coldness, as though it came from the depths of hell, struck her. Yiqing Luo violently shook off the monster's hand as she retreated backwards. The monster behind her had apparently guessed her next move. At the moment when she retreated, the two hands turned into balls of profound Yin Qi, shrouding Yiqing Luo in an overwhelming manner. Yiqing Luo's eyes were gloomy, her fingers moved and the long sword in her hand turned into a ray of cold light, trying to force the profound Yin Qi to retreat. Suddenly Yiqing Luo sensed the surrounding air stagnated for a moment. The powerful and vigorous aura tore a hole in the layers of mysterious Yin energy that were shrouding them. Following that, the balls of profound Yin Qi suddenly collapsed. Bam! A burst of biting cold profound energy brushed past her cheek. Yiqing Luo could clearly see that the black fog monster which was trying to coil around her had actually turned into a puddle of black smoke, as it dissipated cleanly without leaving any traces behind. Bam! Another burst of profound energy landed. The monster which attacked from behind Yiqing Luo was also dispersed. There was a helper. Yiqing Luo's expression did not relax. Instead her brows creased. She moved her body vigilantly, stood aside and turned her head to look at the direction where the profound energy came from. A few monsters were dispersed and did not regenerate. Xianxia was also stunned by this scene. He hid behind the monster, his back against the stone wall as he looked around. Who was playing tricks on him? Whoever dares to be a busybody, I will kill them too. The air was quiet. Yiqing Luo did not manage to find any traces of the figure. Her heart skipped a beat. The person's ability was absolutely strong. She actually could not sense it, but she could confirm that person was nearby. Xianxia took a deep breath, looking at the dozens of monsters. He tried to give an order. Continue to attack. Kill that slut. Find the director. The monsters did not hesitate to obey the order. Bang bang bang. This time it was no longer a small profound energy attack. Instead it was a wave of surging dark force that engulfed those monsters. Xianxia watched in disbelief as the wave of dark force devoured the monsters bit by bit. Yiqing Luo was also stunned by this scene. Who exactly was it that could actually use profound energy to directly disperse this profound Yin Qi? An elder of the Heavenly Academy? He's actually colluding with the dark forces. This is interesting. A clear voice leisurely rang in everyone's ears. Xianxia felt a chill down his spine. That voice, it came from behind him. No. Behind him was a stone wall. However, he still couldn't help but jerk his head to look behind him. His neck was strangled by a slender, creamy hand. Xianxia and Yiqing Luo saw the incoming person. What entered his eyes was an extremely cold and elegant ocean blue dress. Her appearance was cold and beautiful, and a silk belt around her waist perfectly outlined her slender waist. She raised her hand and the spacious ocean blue sleeves slid down to her wrist. Her 5 fingers locked onto Xianxia's neck tightly without any signs of loosening. That lady looked like she was only 16 or 17 years old, but her beauty was soul-stirring. Even Yiqing Luo couldn't help but be tempted. Chapter 2293. The woman clutched Xianxia's neck as she slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Her swaying posture was extremely graceful. Finally, she stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Her aura was instantly intimidating. That icy cold face was like a beauty blossoming on an iceberg, proud and aloof. Her beautiful eyes fell coldly onto Yiqing Luo. Her jet-black pupils were suffused with a faint sea light, extremely mysterious. Yiqing Luo stared blankly at the sudden appearance of the woman. He watched as she easily destroyed those black fog monsters. He watched as she strangled Xianxia's neck with one hand, not showing any mercy at all. Watching her walking step by step in front of her, that icy cold look. Yiqing Luo's heart was shaken. What kind of woman was she? She was so powerful that even she was shocked. The woman's coldness was different from Tong Ziqing's coldness. But it was a kind of extremely flamboyant, extremely arrogant coldness. Are you all right? The woman's voice was cold as she spoke indifferently. Yiqing Luo was stunned again. I'm fine. The woman's cold eyes glanced at Xiang, who was almost suffocating. Do you want him to die? Temporarily. No need. Yiqing Luo stared at her as she replied. The woman responded indifferently as she casually threw Xiang onto the ground. Xiang almost lost half his life. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention to Xiang as she stared straight at the woman in front of her. Who are you? Junqing Wu. The cold words came out from the woman's mouth. Junqing Wu? Yiqing Luo searched for this name in her mind. Extremely unfamiliar. She frowned slightly as she was very surprised. How could there be no legends about such a powerful and shocking woman in the martial arts world? Unless this person was not from Nirvana realm. This thought made Yiqing Luo's pink lips trembled slightly. She was about to speak when she was interrupted by Junqing Wu's cold voice. I am a student from the class of gods. Class of gods student? Yiqing Luo wanted to ask but was forcefully held back. She stared at Junqing Wu's face. I have not seen you in class of gods. I was on leave for the past few days. Junqing Wu replied indifferently. I just came back today and ran into this matter. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. In other words, when Junqing Wu was returning to the academy, he happened to see her being chased by Xiang, so he followed her into the heavenly training forest and saved her. Why did it feel, what felt strange? It felt exactly the same as when she showed up and saved the principal from Xiang's hands. An elder of the Heavenly Academy colluded with the dark forces. This matter must be reported to the academy. Junqing Wu said lightly. Why did he chase after you? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as the luster flickered and suddenly laughed out. Of course, if possible, can student Jun be the witness? Troublesome, Junqing Wu rejected coldly without hesitation, her eyes filled with impatience. Let's go back to the class of gods. If you found it troublesome, you wouldn't have saved me just now. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as she smiled and leaned forward. Student Jun must have his own motive for saving me. She smiled and her body softened as she leaned on Junqing Wu's arm. The woman's fragrance was like the winter plum in the cold winter, extremely elegant. Chapter 2294. Junqing Wu squinted her cold eyes. Her penetrating gaze seemed as though she could see through Yiqing Luo's soul. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly and even inched closer, making eye contact with her. After some time, Junqing Wu replied calmly, Yes, I have a motive for saving you. But I'm not interested in being a witness. This chick was pretty honest, huh? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. All right, then I won't force you. Junqing Wu glanced at the direction where the director was hiding. I'm going back to the class of gods. Remember this favor you owe me. Yiqing Luo smiled bitterly. What she hated the most was to owe a favor. But unfortunately, this girl wanted a favor. It looked like this girl's motive for saving her was rather complicated. But Junqing Wu's appearance had prevented her from using the thunderclap arts and also speedily dealt with the black fog monster, so that she didn't waste too much time. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, her brows were filled with tranquility. I'll remember it. Junqing Wu didn't say anything else as she turned around and left. Just like when she came, mysterious, noble and elegant. The matter has been settled, come out. Yiqing Luo said indifferently. The director climbed out from the haystack, his head was still mixed with a few strands of hair and his clothes were also covered with grass. He stuck his head out, earlier. That young lady, is she your helper? The director was too far away and didn't hear the conversation between Yiqing Luo and that lady. Only through the gaps of the haystack he saw that Yiqing Luo and that lady seemed to be extremely intimate. Yiqing Luo shook her head and tugged the black robe on her to cover herself more tightly before changing her tone. That's a student from the class of gods, you don't know her? Class of gods? The director was stunned and looked around to make sure that there was no longer any danger before he walked out from the haystack. The matters of the class of gods have never been under the school's jurisdiction. As for what students there are in the class of gods, I don't know. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. It seemed like it would be impossible to get information about that woman from the dean. Forget it. Anyway, she still had a month's time to spend in the class of gods. She would eventually find out that lady's motive. Yiqing Luo took a look at Xianxia, who was sprawled on the ground, unable to move. I'll leave the remaining matters to you, don't disappoint me. These words made the dean somewhat displeased. He had always been the one giving the orders. But now he was passively listening to the orders of a strange woman. However, he had no other choice. The dean vented his hatred on Xianxia. His gaze was vicious as he clenched his fists tightly. Under Yiqing Luo's medicinal pills, he had regained some energy as he walked towards Xianxia. Looking at the dean's furious footsteps, Yiqing Luo curled her lips slightly and quietly disappeared from the heavenly training forest. The next day before dawn, a sensational event happened in the Heavenly Academy and the whole academy was awakened. When the academy guards were patrolling outside the training forest, they discovered the academy principal who was covered in wounds and on the verge of death, and Xianxia who was gripping his neck tightly. Beside him there were 4 people in black robes. Cloud heard the noise and rushed over. He quickly sent the dean to the infirmary. The dean's injuries were extremely severe, both internal and external. Xianxia had also suffered from internal injuries and his throat was injured by the profound energy, rendering him unable to speak. Those 4 black-robed men were already dead. After Yuntian's verification, they were from the dark forces. This verification stunned the elders who rushed over upon hearing the news. The dark forces people actually appeared in the Heavenly Academy? Why didn't any of them detect it? Chapter 2295. The dean was injured like this. There was a barrier device in the academy but it was not touched? What was going on? The elders began to check the barrier device and found that the barrier device was indeed tampered with. The news quickly spread to the faculty council. Immediately, Xianmu put down the work in his hands and rushed to the medical hall. Xianmu's face was full of anxiety and his tightly knitted brows revealed a hint of ruthlessness. The students who were passing by could not help but sigh in their hearts. Their president was really like a male god. Not only was he good-looking, he was so worried about the dean's health. When Xianmu hurriedly rushed to the medical hall, he saw that there were a few elders from the elders' quarters there. There were even 2 elders from the General Institute present at the scene. Xianmu's heart skipped a beat. Why would there be people from the headquarters here? He quickly walked into the dean's room and saw the dean leaning weakly against the headboard on the sickbed with a pale face. Under the bed, Xianxia was twitching non-stop. He opened his mouth and wanted to speak but could not say a word. When he saw Xianmu, Xianxia's eyes turned quickly and blinked at Xianmu. This action attracted everyone's attention. One by one they cast their gaze on Xianmu. Xianmu was slightly startled and quickly collected his thoughts and walked over with a worried face. What is going on? He turned his head to look at the elders. He missed the haze that flashed across the dean's eyes. The dean's hand that was hanging in the bedding clenched tightly. Sure enough, it was as the mysterious woman had guessed. The plan failed and Xianmu wanted to bite back at him. When he saw that he was injured and lying on the bed, he did not even say a word of concern. He just wanted to directly bite back at him. The dean sneered in his heart, but on the surface he put on an extremely angry expression and spoke before the elders. Xianxia, this traitor. He betrayed the Heavenly Academy and joined the Dark Forces. Last night he tried to use the Dark Forces to kill me. He gritted his teeth as he spoke and the veins on his forehead were throbbing. President, since you are here, I will leave this matter to you to handle. I need to recuperate in the near future. The dean's face was filled with righteous indignation. Xianmu frowned and looked into the eyes of the dean. However, the dean suddenly blinked his eyes as if he wanted to convey something to him. Xianmu was startled. Could it be that the headmaster still didn't know that Xianxia was under his orders? Under the concise and comprehensive explanation of the elders, Xianmu was also clear of the current situation. It turned out that in the middle of the night last night, Xiang had used a secret technique to sneak into the ancestral hall, knocked him out and brought him out of the ancestral hall. But not long after, the dean came to his senses and wanted to retaliate. He did not expect Xiang to call the 4 remaining members of the underworld organization. He escaped all the way to the heavenly training forest, but he did not expect Xiang to bring the remnants of the dark forces and chase after him. After a great battle, although the dean had killed the remaining members of the dark faction and subdued Xiang, the dark faction was not as powerful as Xiang. But he himself was also seriously injured. Fortunately, he always had a life-saving elixir on him at all times to extend his life in time. Otherwise, he really would have died in the academy. Chapter 2296. The dean was touched and cupped one hand in the other before his chest. With this action he coughed violently again. The elder of the dean quickly stepped forward to support him and asked him not to be overly courteous. For a moment the whole room was filled with greetings. Xianmu knitted his brows tightly and looked at the dean suspiciously. The dean himself was a member of the dark forces. Xiang and 4 people from the dark forces were after him. Did he suspect something? He knew that the dark forces did not intend to keep him alive. So, in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. He wanted to use this matter to clear himself of being related to the dark forces? He wanted to ask for help from the dean? Xianmu stared at the dean and suddenly lowered his eyes to look at Xiang, who was lying on the ground with a pleading look. Dean, Elder Xiang has been in the academy for decades and has been loyal to the academy. Why would he betray the heavenly academy? Dean, are you sure that you did not fall into someone's plot? There was silence in the room. After a long while, Duan looked at Xianmu with a helpless and unbearable expression. We do not want to believe that it was Xiang, but... On the barrier device there was a piece of white cloth. It was clearly embroidered with the word, Xiang. He looked at Xiang's sleeves. The sleeves of the elders will be embroidered with their names, and the place where Xiang's name was embroidered, there was indeed a hole. If it was Elder Xiang, why would he be so stupid to leave his own things for you to find out? Xianmu frowned and stared at the elder with his gentle eyes. Duan frowned slightly and looked at Xianmu with a strange look as if he did not know him. Near the spirit formation device is a protective membrane made of steel. Usually it is the headmaster and I who go over to check if the device is operating normally. Occasionally we would get our clothes or hair scratched by those uneven protective membranes. Moreover, I have never noticed that I have been scratched by them. Before last night, Xiang had never gone to the barrier device. In other words, last night it was Xiang who went to the barrier device and tampered with it. It was to kill the dean. Not only that, we also compared the injuries on the dean's body. They were indeed caused by the mysterious yin qi. Elder Xiang's body also has the aura of the mysterious yin qi. The doctor sitting in the medical hall said. Xianmu pursed his lips and quickly adjusted himself. His own emotions were restored to calmness and gentleness. So that's the case, I'm sorry. After working with Elder Xiang for so long, when I heard that he did such a thing, my feelings were very complicated and agitated. Before the head elder could speak, however, he heard the hospital director's friendly laughter coming from the hospital bed. President, the way you looked at me just now gave me a fright. If I didn't know you well, I would have thought that you and Xiang were in cahoots. Xianmu's face stiffened. This time he was completely sure. The headmaster already knew the reason for Xiang's betrayal. It was because Xiang had turned to his side. The dean also knew that he was the one who wanted to kill him. However, what made Xianmu curious was, the dean had always been a coward. This time he actually dared to openly provoke him. Moreover, with the dean's skills, he was able to kill 4 people from the dark forces and cripple Xiang. Behind the dean, there was someone helping him. The purpose was to overthrow him. Xianmu's eyes flashed and he laughed secretly in his heart. Chapter 2297. Class of Gods. 2 classes had just finished their physical training. Those who were drinking water were drinking water, those who were wiping their sweat were wiping their sweat. There were even a few who had collapsed on the training ground and closed their eyes to rest. After the physical training, they had 1 hour's rest time before the next training mission. Yiqing Luo took a piece of white silk and wiped the sweat on her forehead. Her gaze wandered around the surroundings. After a round of training, Yiqing Luo didn't notice that girl named Jun Qingwu. Wasn't she a student from the class of gods? Didn't she return to the class of gods early in the morning? Why didn't she see her during the training? Or could it be, that girl was actually lying to her? Qing Luo, who are you looking for? Tong Ziqing walked over. You seem to be looking for someone from the class of gods since this morning's gathering. Yiqing Luo shook her head. But her gaze was suddenly fixed on one person. That person's gaze was looking over. To be precise, it was looking at Tong Ziqing. I heard that the day before yesterday, Si Minghan gave up on the competition and specially ran back to the actual combat training forest to look for you for the entire night. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the girl standing behind her. Tong Ziqing's pupils suddenly contracted. Her eyelashes trembled unnaturally. Him looking for me is his own matter. Even this didn't move your heart? Yiqing Luo raised her pink lips, stood up and hooked Tong Ziqing's shoulder. To tell the truth, when I heard this news I was touched. He was just bored and wanted to find someone to tease. Tong Ziqing pursed her red lips and turned her face away. Her voice was calm and steady. So don't tease me. Yiqing Luo patted her shoulder. Silly girl, sometimes stubbornness is not necessarily right. For matters of the heart, only you can choose according to your heart. That is the right choice. Of course, I'm not advising you to give up on Ajan after all. You've had a crush on him for so many years, it's not that easy to forget. But from an outsider's point of view, when you say this, I have to refute it for Si Minghan. If he was bored and wanted to tease you, there's no need to use his own body as a joke. You should also know that he searched the forest for you for an entire night. He ran through every corner of the forest and almost lost his life to the claws of the magical beasts several times. Yesterday, in order to ensure your safety, in order to train together with you, even with my injuries, I forced myself to participate in the strengthened training. If that's the case, you still think that he's just bored and trying to have fun with you, then I have nothing to say. Tong Ziqing wanted to interrupt Yiqing Luo several times. But hearing Yiqing Luo's words, her red lips pursed even tighter. The more she listened, the lower she lowered her head. Yes, Tong Ziqing could feel it. She could sense that he was joking and serious. He just didn't want to believe it. Love at first sight. It sounded wonderful. But in reality, it wasn't as beautiful as it seemed. She fell in love with Long Yunjian at first sight, but it was only because she was moved at first sight that she fell deeply in love with him later on. However, Si Minghan's love at first sight was too sudden, so sudden that she couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it either. He loved Long Yunjian. This was something that no one could change. Even Si Minghan was the same. Rather than giving Si Minghan hope, she might as well pretend that she didn't know anything. Feelings that couldn't be reciprocated. Moreover, 1 month later they would return to the devil class. Chapter 2298. Looking at Tong Ziqing's drooping eyelids, struggling but stubbornly biting her lips. Yiqing Luo could also tell the choice in Tong Ziqing's heart. She sighed softly. Everyone's love was different. Their attitude towards love was different too. Tong Ziqing loved Long Yunjian so much that she couldn't see Si Minghan. This was Tong Ziqing's choice. She couldn't force Tong Ziqing to do anything. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and patted Tong Ziqing's shoulder lightly. I only hope that you can be truly happy. Tong Ziqing's petite body trembled slightly. Happy? She already didn't know whether she was happy or not. It seemed that Long Yunjian could take a look at her, speak to her and stand in front of her to protect her without hesitation. He was happy. But the more happiness she had, what followed was even more loneliness and sadness. She had loved Long Yunjian for too long. She really didn't know if her happiness was still important. It seemed that she really loved someone. So much that she didn't even have herself. This thought caused Tong Ziqing's entire body to be stunned. She turned her head as though she was escaping and quickly left the training ground, heading towards a direction where there was no one around. Her mind was in a mess. Tong Ziqing had long forgotten about the question she asked Yiqing Luo about who she was looking for. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she looked at Tong Ziqing's panicked back view. She wanted to chase up. But from the corner of her eyes she saw someone from the class of gods chasing up. Yiqing Luo put down her raised foot. Si Minghan he really liked Tong Ziqing. His gaze had always been focused, only accommodating Tong Ziqing alone. Being loved by such a person should be blissful. But Tong Ziqing probably wouldn't be able to walk out of the cage set by Long Yunjian. But she should give Si Minghan a chance. A chance to open the door to Tong Ziqing's heart. If Tong Ziqing continued to love Long Yunzhan and he still didn't respond, it would be too tiring. The next moment Yiqing Luo saw. A blue figure flashed past her and chased towards the direction where Tong Ziqing and Si Minghan disappeared. He bumped into Yiqing Luo and was totally unaware. The only thought in his mind was to quickly catch up. Not far away, Yan Xiaoyi, who was nestled in Xiao Jin's arms, mischievously looked at the scene before her. She clicked her tongue and said, "Class monitor looks like he's moved. Doesn't he like Qing Luo?" Xiao Jin gently fed her water. Yan Xiaoyi drank a mouthful of water in satisfaction as the cooling feeling eased her fatigue. Under such a strong opponent like the Overlord, you still like Qing Luo, aren't you just looking for death? Xiao Jin nodded in agreement. That's true. But class monitor still hasn't realized that his feelings towards Qing Luo is no longer the love he thought it was. Yan Xiaoyi stretched her waist in Xiao Jin's embrace. I hope that Si Minghan's appearance will make the class monitor understand her own heart. Otherwise, our goddess Si Qing will be hurt again. Yiqing Luo held onto her injured elbow. She burst out laughing. Indeed, the appearance of a love rival could truly allow one to understand their own heart. Their Mr. Class Monitor was finally going to be enlightened. Yiqing Luo rubbed her own arm and a concerned voice floated over her head. Student Yiqing Luo, your arm, is it all right? Yiqing Luo raised her head and her eyes were filled with smiles as she replied politely, Teacher Yi, I'm fine. Teacher Yi smiled as he looked at the young lady in front of him. Chapter 2299. They had intensified their special training yesterday and today, they had intensified their training to a new level. The students from the class of God were obviously lacking in today's special training. But the students from the devil class were still fighting bravely. This kind of spirit was really shocking to these teachers. And also very curious. What kind of method did the students from the devil class use to grow to this stage? This was crucial to their teaching career. Hence, Teacher Yi was sent out to inquire about the news. Do you need to rest? Teacher Yi asked with a smile. Yiqing Luo took off the soft silk from her neck and put it aside. Coincidentally, I have something to ask Teacher Yi. Do you have time to chat? Teacher Yi beamed with joy. Come, let's go over there. The two of them walked one after another to the training ground, to the stone table where the teachers were resting. Yiqing Luo sat down. Teacher Yi went straight to the point. Student Yiqing Luo, before you entered the devil class, Before you entered the devil class, how was their performance? Yiqing Luo understood. It seemed that Teacher Yi was very interested in the students of the devil class. She replied with a smile. When I first entered the devil class, I was almost taught a lesson by them. Actually, the students in the devil class are not the so-called waste, they are just using the mask of waste to cover up their true selves. Teacher Yi stroked his beard, which meant that the changes in the devil class had nothing to do with Yiqing Luo. Teacher Yi looked in the direction of the devil class. Then do you know how many students in your class are not from the Heavenly Academy? How many? Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. Are you trying to say kitty? That's a cat beast from the beastman race. Has it contracted with you? As someone from the upper realm, Teacher Yi naturally recognized Kitty Li's identity. Yiqing Luo nodded calmly. With Kitty Li's identity, it was easy to fool the people from the Nirvana realm. The people from the upper realm had some understanding of the beastman race. With a little careful observation, they could clearly discover Kitty Li's true identity. Teacher Yi's eyes were filled with admiration. To be able to subdue a beastman to form a contract with him, and a little girl from the lower domain at that, it was truly rare. He stroked his beard and threw out the next question. There's another one. Yan Xiaoyi. The faculty council doesn't have her information either. Xiaoyi? Yiqing Luo's eyes revealed a puzzled expression. When I joined Devil Class, Xiaoyi was already a veteran student in Devil Class Faculty Council. How could it be possible that there's no information on her? Her words had just stopped. Yiqing Luo thought of something. The last time when Yan Zhenfei stole the portraits of the students from the Faculty Council in Devil Class, she had also said, in the portrait there was no Yan Xiaoyi. Could it be that Yan Xiaoyi was afraid that Yan Zhenfei, who was working in the Faculty Council, would discover her identity, so she purposely hid her identity? There's another student. She's the one who is the most low-key amongst all of you, but the one who isn't simple Moing. Teacher Yi then pointed at the little girl who stood in the corner like a soulless puppet. staring blankly into space. Mo Ying's true identity was the island sage of Godless Island. She didn't have anyone by her side in the faculty council, so she stayed in Devil class? This Heavenly Academy's system was really inconceivable. Easily able to let students who weren't from the Heavenly Academy enter the Heavenly Academy. After that, she openly appeared in the Academy. The Academy actually didn't know about it. Chapter 2300. Devil classes change, is it because of them? Teacher Yi lowered his voice and asked meaningfully. Yiqing Luo concealed the deep glint in her eyes as she gave a polite smile. These I'm not too sure. But during this period of time in Devil class, the only thing I can be sure of is that they all sincerely treat themselves as Devil classes students. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo's eyes sparkled with sincerity. Why would they come to Devil class, I think? It's because they wish to have a place to stay. Teacher Yi was stunned. Suddenly he recalled his investigation on the three people. A beast, human, cat, beast, Yiqing Luo's contracted beast. She naturally had to stay by Yiqing Luo's side. There was no one in charge of Devil class, so it was understandable for Kitty Li to be placed in Devil class. An Wan was the Yen family's second miss. Her days in the Yen family were miserable, and finally she couldn't take it anymore, so she escaped from the Yen family. The Yen family had no feelings for this missing second miss, and no one went to look for her. Devil class was indeed the only place for Yen Xiaoyi and that mysterious young lady. Until now, they were still unable to find any information about that young lady. However, such a strange little girl who never seemed to know how to socialize and communicate with others. To be able to get along so harmoniously with everyone in Devil class, it showed that the feelings between them were indeed sincere. Since they have already lived in Devil class for so long, then Devil class belongs to all of us. None of our family members can be missing. Yiqing Luo looked at Teacher Yi smilingly with a serious look on her face. So Teacher Yi, regarding Devil class's students, I hope you won't tell the academy. Teacher Yi stroked his beard and laughed out loud. If I wanted to say, I wouldn't have specially come to ask you. I just want to know, what method did your Devil class use to have such a huge change, and as compared to the class of gods, it's even stronger. This really makes us three teachers blush with shame. Method? Yiqing Luo tilted her head and pondered for a moment. How should I put it? What can change a person can never escape from the word love. Friendship, love, kinship. Or hatred, disgust, and so on. She continued, because there is love in one's heart. Perhaps it is the desire to protect someone, or perhaps it is the desire to be acknowledged by someone, or perhaps it is the desire to become stronger, or perhaps it is the desire to take something back. These are all reasons why a person changes and becomes stronger. As Yiqing Luo said that, she looked towards those 10 students who were resting in Devil class. Her charming eyes were filled with a warm brilliance. She curled her lips and smiled warmly. As for the Devil class, maybe they want to protect the Devil class, to protect the affection between them. Teacher Yi was taken aback. His hand, which was stroking his beard, paused slightly. After a while he let out a low laugh. I understand now, it's no wonder. The innate talents of the God class are so good, but they can't compare to the students of the Devil class. Yiqing Luo smiled but didn't continue the conversation. I have another question. Teacher Yi also looked towards the direction of the Devil class. Every student in the academy has a student's wooden plaque. On it there will be detailed records of every student's profound rank changes. These changes could be observed by the Elders Department at any time. Why is it that, after so many years, the profound grade of the Devil class's students' wooden tablets has never changed? Chapter 2301. The Academy's Wooden Plate? The thing. After it was taken away by Long Yunzhan and sealed away, she had forgotten about it. If I have the intention to avoid the Academy's attention, I will naturally think of ways to avoid any possibility of being discovered. Yiqing Luo replied frankly. Teacher Yi nodded thoughtfully. You bunch of kids. If only I had discovered you earlier and accepted you all into the God class. His words were to probe Yiqing Luo. They indeed had the intention to bring the 10 students from the class of devils to the class of gods for special training. These children were not as talented as the other students. However, after going through their special training, he would definitely become a powerful profounder. However, look at the affection between these students. Very likely, he would still choose to refuse. As expected, Yiqing Luo pretended not to understand and smiled lightly. Class of God students, their innate talent and learning ability are very strong. These 2 days of special training in Class of God, we have all benefited a lot. Teacher Yi didn't know what else to say. Then he casually muttered a few words. There was only an incense stick's worth of time left to rest. Just as Teacher Yi was about to instruct Yiqing Luo to prepare for the upcoming training, he heard Yiqing Luo's indifferent voice. Teacher Yi, I would like to ask, is there a student in the Class of Gods called Junqing Wu? Junqing Wu? Teacher Yi was taken aback. Yes. Is she not coming for today's special training? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Why was Teacher Yi's expression so strange at the mention of Junqing Wu? It seemed like he was afraid of that student called Junqing Wu? Fear. He was a headmaster from the upper 3 realms. How could he be afraid of a student? She should be. Teacher Yi's expression was slightly flustered. Suddenly he seemed to have seen something from the corner of his eyes and immediately said, Of course she's here. Student Jun Qinggu has been busy these few days, so she hasn't come to school. She just returned today, so of course she'll be here for the special training. Saying that, he had already looked towards a certain direction behind Yiqing Luo. Look, student Jun Qingwu is coming over. Yiqing Luo followed Teacher Yi's gaze. A beautiful girl dressed in ocean blue slowly walked over. Her sea blue skirt was like a blooming platycodon. His icy cold face made him look extremely mysterious and noble. Jun Qingwu's arrival immediately attracted everyone's attention. However, Jun Qingwu turned a blind eye as she walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows, but from the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of Teacher Yi's trembling body staring at Jun Qingwu. It was as if he was nervous about something. Then a student from the Class of Gods exclaimed, Student Jun is back. Classmate Jun is back. Teacher Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Jun Qingwu's cold voice drifted into his ears like a cold current. I'm back. Teacher Yi swallowed his saliva and smiled. It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. It's almost time for the next training. Jun Qinggu, hurry up and get ready. As he spoke, he left as though he was escaping. In Yiqing Luo's eyes, Master Yi was on the run. Why did he seem to be afraid of Jun Qingwu? Classmate Jun Qinggu, we meet again. Yiqing Luo didn't think too deeply about it. She wasn't interested in delving into the secrets of the Class of Gods. Jun Qinggu glanced at her indifferently. You're quite energetic. Last night, because of the matter between the director and the dark forces, she had been tormented for the whole night. Now she could still participate in the special training.